to week number 21 of CC. It's your boy Shostin, and esports is in full swing. We've got several leagues started. We've got Boston this weekend for Call of Duty. Tons of Rocket League news. But first off, let's start with some Call of Duty with a special guest. Take it away. I got my boy Brian Stats to talk about the matches this past weekend. Brian, take it away. What were the major takeaways from this past weekend of matches?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say thanks for having me on. This was a long time coming. Big fan of everything you do, and this is just awesome having me on your show. I love what you're doing. And what I'd say for the main takeaways, something we've been talking about in the league a lot is the predictability that the top four, we knew what the top four teams were going to be going into the season: New York, Toronto, Optic, and FaZe. So those top four teams, and that was pretty much the case, minus Miami slotting in at that fourth seed, and then Optic was fifth. I think the matches pretty much went as expected. There wasn't as many upsets, and that's a complaint that's been happening in the scene. People are saying the league is boring this year, it's a little too predictable, but I think that's going to lead to an incredible major one, because now you have the four top dogs that are going to be going at it. In terms of this weekend major takeaways, Optic had a really bad week. Miami took them out. They lost against FaZe for the first time in a long time. So will Optic be able to bounce back is a question people are really curious about. For me, though, I am very impressed with New York, despite losing to Toronto and then going map 5 against Boston. I still think New York is the team to beat, personally. You know, one stat I mentioned before, and if you follow me on Twitter, you would have seen it, but one thing that's pretty fascinating about New York is in their last 19 series, they're 16-3. Those 3 losses all came to the Toronto Ultra. They're 14-0 against all other teams, 2-3 against Toronto in their last 19. So I even have it pulled up that the last time they lost to a team that wasn't the Toronto Ultra was against the Boston Breach on May 21st, 2023. So it's been, I know we had a long off season, 6-month off season, but it has been 8 months since this New York Subliners team has lost to any team not named the Toronto Ultra.
Wow.
So, you know, despite them potentially looking a little slower going game 5 against Boston, there's certainly things they need to work out, but it's really just those top 4 teams, man. And impressed with Seattle as well, how Seattle started the major. They slowed down. Tough loss to Minnesota this weekend. Man, there's so much to talk about. Even Minnesota starting off super slow, winning their last couple matches to slide into that 6th seed, when I think a lot of people thought they were going to be in the losers bracket after an 0-3, or maybe it was actually an 0-4 start. Yeah, a lot of movement going around, but I think it all just goes back to those top 4 teams that are just so unbelievably dominant compared to the rest of the field.
Yeah, so switching over to Major 1 in Boston, I agree. The top 5 is really what everyone's looking at. And speaking of the top 5, we've got a matchup between Florida and Optic. And Optic historically have had a Florida curse on land. So talk to me about what the bracket sort of looks like this weekend and how you think it sort of might play out.
Yeah, so looking at the bracket for this weekend, in line with what I was just saying about this skill gap, this ever so apparent skill gap between the top teams in the league and the bottom teams in the league, we knew that would kind of bleed into the major, and that's exactly what we got. In my opinion, I could see the top 4 teams all winning their matches. First of all, FaZe versus LAG. I wouldn't be shocked if this was a 3-0, 45-minute series. DoorDash, even though LAG has shown signs of, really impressing me throughout this stage, they're going against FaZe, and FaZe is a team I didn't even really dive into yet. 7-0. This is the 3rd time in the last 4 years where they went undefeated in the first stage. In Cold War, they started off 5-0, won that major. In Vanguard, they started off 5-0, placed 2nd at the first major against Optic. Yeah, MW2, they started off 3-2, still impressive, but then this year 7-0. So, to be undefeated in 3 of the last 4 stages, stage 1s, is pretty nuts. I think Atlanta FaZe is as hot as ever. Like you mentioned Miami versus Optic. So there's that curse. There's that Florida curse. The Florida Mutineers / Miami Heretics have a winning record against Optic in their career. I think 10-9 now, which is absurd.
Wow.
when you think about those Optic teams throughout the CDL, maybe they haven't been winning as many tournaments, but they've been one of the most stacked teams. Florida has gone through many team changes, many different rosters from the Skies Awakenings, Dave Patty era, and now you have the Miami Heretics era, and still they prove to give Optic trouble. So Optic's going against them in the first round. I'm still picking Optic though. I think they looked red hot this season, besides this past weekend, and I think they'll bounce back. They're just too good to get first rounded by this Miami team. This Miami team looks great, but this Optic team was built to win championships. And I actually have a pretty interesting fun fact about Optic as well. You know, I had to come here prepared for the fun facts. So it was something I posted about a month ago. Every time Optic has brought in a new duo during the offseason, they've rather made it to the championship or won the championship in that first event with the new duo. Crim6 and Formal coming in AW. They placed second at Columbus against Dunk Sensor Martin FaZe. Fast forward a couple years, they bring in TJ Haley and Dashy in Black Ops 4, another duo. They win Vegas. And then a couple years after that, they bring in Shotzi and Illy, the third duo, and then they win Major 1 in Vanguard. So Optic has a little streak going on since their history. Whenever they bring in a new duo during the offseason, they make it to the championship. So I think we've seen history repeat itself a lot, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this team make a run.
Those are amazing stats. I really appreciate you bringing those fun facts to the table. Yeah, I think this weekend's just all going to be about how the roster changes in the offseason really paid off. Every single team made a roster change. All eyes are on these teams to really prove themselves on LAN. Brian, I appreciate it so much for coming on the show, and I'm really looking forward to Boston this weekend.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'll be there. So hopefully, we'll meet up, have a good time. Can't wait for the major, man. Can't wait.
Hopping over to League of Legends, I got the co-host Cameron. Hey, Cam, welcome on. It's been a while. Welcome back. And this weekend we had the opening weekend of the LCS. We're going to talk some League of Legends and also the LEC, and then also a little bit of LCK Korea action. So, Cameron, welcome back. Let's hop into the LCS. What's going on?
So LCS started this past weekend, and what we're looking towards most are these two major format changes initiated by the new commissioner, Mark Zimmerman. The first major change being that we will be playing on the live patch of League of Legends. So this is going to be the first time in LoL esports history where what you're seeing on the LCS Twitch stream is the exact same thing that you can go on to the League client and play. And then the other major change is that they are going to try to reduce the time in between games as much as possible. And we were able to see kind of the implications of both of those changes this weekend, namely the time between games. The first couple of games were flying by quick. Well, I should say the first game mainly, because there was a major tech pause in game number 2 that could be related to some of the live patch hotfix stuff. But the way that the games flowed in between each other, and with having draft pre-recorded, which is also another big change, the turnaround time was incredibly quick if we don't count those technical pauses.
All right, so as we see the standings on screen, is anything popping out to you over this past weekend?
Really, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Cloud9 on top, which was to be expected. Pretty much everybody had them ranked number 1 overall with their power rankings, adding MVP Jojo Pune to an already very healthy North American roster. Berserker looks as dominant as he has ever looked, so this should be an excellent season for him. FlyQuest coming in, also at 2-0 for the weekend. I'm loving the way that team's looking. I mean, just overall, Whippo inspired. They seem to be gelling really well with their top jungle synergy. And then Masu has been looking really good as the rookie 80 carry for that squad. Our incumbent champions, NRG Kia, did end up catching an L on day 1 to Cloud9, but I'm sure that team will bounce back. There's still a lot of time left in the season. And then down at the bottom, as we kind of expected, we've got Shopify Rebellion and Immortals. Not too many surprises there. Dignitas is looking pretty good. They're able to get a win, so they're 1-1. But this is to be expected for the most part.
Cameron, thank you so much for hopping back on CC. League of Legends is back in action, full swing, and I'm so excited to watch some more. LCS weekend 2, LEC weekend number 3. We got CB LOL. We got Superliga. I mean, we got the LCK. There's so much league to watch. You can't watch all of it. I mean, it's a shame.
It's the best time of year, baby. So much league to watch.
So we just got an update on the Overwatch format for 2024 for their esports scene. As we know, the Overwatch League is no more. They refunded the teams or whatever that were part of the Overwatch team franchising league, and now it's official. We're back to an open open competition format with anyone being able to sign up for tournaments, any organizations, sponsor teams, etc., etc. So we've got the format. As you can see, we've got 3 regions: North America, EMEA, and Asia. And then along with that, we have 2 international events in the year. First off being in DreamHack Dallas in May, and then the second one being DreamHack Stockholm in November. So it's a very similar format to League of Legends, but in an open format now. So it's actually really exciting. I think this is probably the perfect format we can have for an esport. Now, I'm not sure if these regional only tournaments are going to be online only or in person. I'm hoping they're in person because only having 2 LANs throughout the year is a little minimal. But that being said, I think having the 2 international events a year makes the international events have way more weight and meaning, which is what we see in League of Legends. I mean, Worlds is the most hyped tournament in the entire world of the entire year, every single year. So it adds the gravitas and excitement leading up into the end of the year. So we've got a similar format for Overwatch, and I'm really excited to see how this pans out. We're going back to the open format, so I'm happy for everyone in the Overwatch scene. Hopefully this pays dividends to the esport and everyone that's invested into that and grows into something that, it deserves to be. So that's going to be it for this week. There's plenty of more esports news, but I want to bring you guys the most condensed informational version as possible. So we'll have some more special guests on next week to talk about their esports and what's going on in their scene. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We'll see you guys in just a few short days. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the esports. See you soon. Peace.